Hello and welcome to this week's episode of BRICkast Desktop Build. And today we are building exactly what you see in the frame. It is a simple car. Now, this car is really simple design. It's just 4 long. As you can see, it has some extra components to it. It rolls really nicely. And it also has 5 opening compartments to it, which is really neat for a creation that is so small. As you can see, we've got hood that opens. We've also got opening roof so you can place the minifigure inside. On the sides we have 2 doors that can open, and then finally open for a little back hatch on the back. Now, the reason I chose to build this was because I wanted to create something that is a nice and simple design that everybody would be able to follow along and build. Now, most people, I think when they sit down in front of a box of Legos or a new collection, first thing they're going to do is look for some wheels and start building themselves a car. I think we can all relate to that a little bit. So I decided to just start off here with a nice simple car. I designed this build to be something that almost anyone can put together with just about any collection. It's made of almost entirely really simple, common pieces. We don't have any bizarre colors or shapes that most people might not have in their collection. This one is made to be accessible to the Lego builders with both big and small collections. So let's take a look at some of the pieces that you're going to need to get this build going. Hopefully it wasn't too hard for you to find all those pieces. Like I said earlier, as you can probably tell, all the pieces for this build are really simple and common. And as a matter of fact, I was building this when I first started it out of a very small collection. My current living situation, I don't have a lot of Legos with me right now, just one big box. So it was a challenge to come up with the best car I could, and that's what I tried to make here. I think I came up with something that I can say I'm pretty proud of. Really like the niftiness of all these opening contraptions. It's very cool. You can't really tell from the outside that this car has so many opening interactive components to it, and that's really what I enjoy most about this creation. I've always been a fan of cars. I usually like to build them on the more wild side, but it was a fun challenge to come in and try and build something really simple. Now, I chose to build this in red. Red is always a great looking color in Lego, I think. It's a real classic. But you feel free to replace any of these bricks you see in this build with any other color of your choice. Go crazy with it. Make it blue, make it black, give it stripes. Do whatever you want. I'd love to see what other people can come up with the color schemes. But for now, as always, be creative with it. Alright, so we're going to be starting off with just the base here of the car. As you can see, this long flat piece will start as the base for the build. We've also got these two 2x2s and just a little nest piece for the driver to sit in to give him some clearance. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this long piece and just attach it right there. So you've got 4 studs on either side of the nest. Make sure that's attached under and not on top. And next we're going to add this piece right here, one of the 2x2s on there. And we're going to also add the other 2x2 on that side. We sort of have a symmetrical thing. Normally people like to do same color. I really don't care. They're both gray and they're sort of function as the inside of the car. So, there's a lot of different metallic colors going on in there that could be represented by that. So there we go. And then these last 2 pieces are going to start to build the foundation of the doors and the windows of the car, the base of it. Just going to put 1 2x1 there and 1 there. So a few more pieces to add on here. First we're going to add this wheel well piece, and this is just going to nest nicely right here on this area. This will serve as the front of the car. Just make sure it is flush with these two 2x1 bricks. It'll fit right on there. And then, of course, to stabilize it, we're going to add these 1x4 bricks. You can see, putting them right on there. And we've got this very flush sort of red base of the car starting to come together. Now, if we want, we can add some details into here. This area, sort of inside this indent in this piece, is going to function as the underside of the hood of the car. So it's sort of mini engine. We've got these little one stud pieces. Those are going to go right there on top of this light gray brick. And we have those two. And then, of course, go-to for sort of technology kind of smooth pieces that don't take up much space. We have these sort of function as the engine. This obviously not a huge engine, but this car probably has about the power of a lawnmower. It's not probably very fast. It's a really small car. So there we go. Throw those on there. And next up, we are just going to add the back wheel well. This piece is incredibly useful for building cars. It's going to be what we put on the back for adding the bumper on the back, and just a generally useful piece. Works in gray. I didn't have one in red. Would have been probably better in red. I didn't have one with the collection that's with me, but this will do the job. Just put it on right there, and we have a nice little connected piece. This will just fit solidly on top of that back 2x2, and now we've got a straight line across. You can see where the wheels are going to go, and we can move on from here. Alright, as we continue with our car, we're going to add some more pieces just to reinforce the side, build it up a little bit. First up is this 1x3 piece. This flat piece is going to make the side a little bit taller for our minifigure, and we're going to place it right there so that this middle stud lines right up with this center piece here. Now we're going to add another one on the other side. And next up, we have 4 of these 1x2s, and these guys are going to sort of fill in the rest of the creation. We're going to put 2 of them on either side of the engine right here. See that come up as important later, and then we're going to put 2 more towards the back of the car. Right there. Now, next up, we're just going to grab 2x4, throw it there, right on the end. This sort of serves as the back of the car, sort of a plasticky bumper looking color. I wanted to sort of replicate that cheap bumper sort of plastic color that you see on a lot of smaller, cheaper cars, and then we'll complete this later by putting the rest of the bumper here on these studs, but for now that'll do. Next up, the most luxury part of the car is this nice brown leather seat, just a hook piece. Works well with minifigures. We'll attach right there, and we'll eventually have a figure sitting in this tiny little area up here. Now we move to the front of the car. We have another one of these sort of tech-looking pieces. Looks like it could be a vent of some sort. Either way, it's red and it's smooth, and that's what we need for this creation. So we're going to put it right there. That'll come into play later once we add the hood piece. And now we have some other sort of smooth curvature pieces. These are just designed to give the creation a little bit less of a boxy feel, some more texture. One of these is going to go right here, right in this open space, just flush with that, and then we'll add the other one, and then this one thick dimension is going to help out perfectly for adding on these smooth pieces. This is a piece I love. It's always incredibly useful. Wish I had more of it. For now, it's going to go right here and complete for the sides of our hood. And there we have the car, body of it sort of coming together. And our car is out of frame for a little while here. We're just going to build the hood, which is a little separate contraption that I'd like to show you guys. So first things first, we are starting with just some black and gray pieces. We have here 2x1 and a center stud piece, and then a hook. These can be sort of any variation of black and gray. That you won't see them on the outside of the creation, and like I said, they're sort of gizmos inside the car and joints and stuff that normally on cars aren't really painted. So first up, we're just going to take these two pieces and, as you might have guessed, not drop them, but connect them together. Make a little two-piece tall stack. And to complete that, we are going to add this hook. Now the hook I'm using here is the old version of this piece, one I was used to playing with as a kid. The new one I know is much more, I would say, concise, and it's very clear that it's a hook. I know these tended to break. Right here we have another old piece that has since pretty much been replaced, but this works out well for us because, you know, we want to keep this hook connection sort of centered here, and this allows us to do so because it has these two little pieces on the side that keep it from moving side to side. So just attach that right there. And then this slanted piece right here, 2x3, is going to serve as the hood itself. We're going to go ahead and attach that right on here to this red piece. You can see it sort of moves. Needs something to kind of hold it on, and we'll help out by adding this piece. So it's good to have a red one is, I think, better here just to complete the hood. Maybe a black one would look all right, sort of add a little bit of negative space to the creation. But that is what we have right there. Now we have a functioning little joint. And then we're just going to get rid of these exposed studs on the top by adding a flat piece, albeit a not incredibly flat piece. Some of these Legos I'm using came from when I was a kid and liked to take Legos apart with my teeth. Not a strategy I often use anymore, though I'll admit to having done it. And now we're going to bring in the rest of the creation here back into frame, all the hard work we've done. And this guy will just sort of slide in there. As you can see, I've left just enough space for the hinge mechanism to work. So slide that in right there, wait for it to click. And now we've got a tiny little hood that opens and closes. So as we move on with our car, questions are starting to come up about what's going to go in here, what's going to fill in this sort of awkward space, and I've got an answer for that. So first up, we're going to have these pieces all sort of move to the front here. As you can see, we've got another great piece. These guys, which are just a 1x1 brick with a stud on the side, these are really useful for creating side paneling and giving texture to things. And they're much better than their older counterpart, which was not evenly aligned. Now, we're going to start by, we're just going to connect these two 2x1s here right together, just like so. Black one on the bottom is what I prefer to do. And then we can add next two pieces right here. And if you've probably already guessed, the grate is going to go right here. Now this piece is going to fill in as much space as we can with this hinge. I couldn't exactly cover it up without completely blocking it off from working, but as you see, if we put this right here, then there's only a small gap, and I sort of like to make an excuse, and maybe it's like an intake gap valve or something, or air to the engine for the car, but now we still get a little bit of an opening. You can see the engine in there, and that piece is going to separate the cockpit from the front of the car. Now, one thing that I forgot to add were just these little lights, some transparent orange pieces. These are going to go right on the front of the car right here. They actually fit pretty well with the sort of angled design that we have going. That's how the front of the car ends up looking pretty good there. I do say I like that. Now, next up, we've got the doors. This is the moment of truth. Now these guys, pretty simple. They're going to go on the sides of the car just like you'd imagine. We're going to put one of them right alongside this piece. We'll put the other one on just to be good, and we've got a much fatter looking car here coming up. Now we're going to work on the back. Now these two pieces, just nice simple bricks. We can cover a lot of space with these guys. Now it's important that we put this 1x3 brick on this side right here. If we put that on what I guess would be the left side of the car, if it's facing forward, put that right there. We can see that is nice and smooth with the door. You see the little crack for the door that opens. And on the other side, we're going to put the 2x1, which gives us space for the back hatch, which we are about to add on. Now, this is another door. You could sort of use whichever door you like for this. It depends on how many of each side you have. In my case, I had 2 right side doors, so I'm going to be putting this hinge on the right side, but we're just going to attach this right here, these 3 open space, and see the door doesn't look too good from the top, but from the back you've got this sort of little side opening hatch. Now it's very loose here, and that's why we have these corner pieces. These guys are going to get placed right here just to cut off and stabilize this small compartment. And now when we look at the back of the car, we can get it opening. Alright, now as we look at our car, it's coming along quite nicely. One of the things that is missing though is some texture. Cars usually aren't this smooth and blocky, so with Legos that's always something you want to try to avoid, but because they're blocks, it's hard. But for now, what we're going to do is we've got some slanted pieces to help out. First off is this piece. Now, right here, we are going to add this just simple, common 2x1 slanted brick right there. Now, keep in mind, everything that I'm doing on this side of the car, you should also be doing on this side, doing a symmetrical build here. Now, this piece is just 1x1. Put that right on here. That is perfect. You see we've got a little bit more beef onto the car, sort of lines up with that. And then now we're going to use this piece to add on some side paneling. Now this is an incredibly useful piece, really good for adding texture to walls or the side of a car and whatnot. So first off, we're just going to take this hook piece, place it right there. I just sort of had these hook pieces, had an impromptu really reason for using them in this, but I think it looks kind of neat. So I'll put the hook piece there. More importantly, it works to fit that piece completely on there, a slanted piece, and then just a 1x4 plate. Add that right there, and then this little 1x2 is going to come in handy later in the build. Bring that and add it right on top. So I have already gone and added the other side texture onto the car. Sorry about this, but I didn't have another red piece in my small collection, so I was stuck using a gray one, which is a much more common color of that piece, but it doesn't look too bad. It really, when you look at the creation from far away, it does actually fill in pretty well. But we'll go back to our good side and add on this part right here. Alright, so now we've got our minifigure here. Nice little classic Anakin Skywalker face, but we're going to add the women's hair for this minifigure in our classic Arctic outfit. And we're just going to put her right here. Nice comfy leather seat. Just plops right in there. The arms fit pretty nicely in the door. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but as someone who has a small car, it's kind of how it feels to be a little cramped like that. So minifigure, always good to, just as a general piece of advice, it's always good to sort of build around your minifigure so you don't accidentally build something that cannot function with a figure inside. So Now, let's move on to the glass. Here we've got windshield. It's just a basic 4-long windshield. And we are going to attach that right onto here if it wants to attach. Hopefully it will. There we go. Windshield is on. Start to see the car looking like a car. Now we've got to add another layer of bricks right here. First piece up is this center studded piece. Stick that right on there. That'll be a nice smooth connector for the roof, and the other one goes right behind the windshield. And then now we've got rear windshield. It's got to be able to see out the back, check on those people tailgating you. So there you go. Lost a piece there. Whoops. All right, and there you go. We got a little bit of a back windshield. And then we'll fill that in with 2 of these transparent red pieces. Ideally, solid red would be the way to go, or actually regular transparent clear would look nice as well. For me, easiest was to find these trans red pieces. One there, one there. Ta-da! We have a little cab for our driver. But what does she need? She needs a roof. Roof up is going to be this guy, this piece I talked about. The very old school hinge piece. Stick that on there. Just make sure these hinges are properly connected. And the hinge can close nicely on the roof. And there we have the body of our car. And look at all these opening compartments. We got back, roof, hood, and side doors. Of course, always nice to have that sort of mobility in Lego creations. All right, it's time to add the wheels because now we're looking like a car. So first up, we're going to obviously need our wheel mounts. These are just classic Lego wheel mounts. Not the oldest ones. I do prefer the ones with this sort of angled part on them just because they can make it look like it has a bit wider of a wheelbase. They can be a little bit cumbersome, though, sometimes if you're trying to build something with smaller wheels, but let's go with this. So, let's just throw some wheels on. Yep, not that one. This one. Some wheels on there. Some wheels on here. And then these wheels just going to nest very nicely right down here. I decided to go with yellow for the wheel color, and I thought that looked appropriately civil for this kind of car. You know, just Lego tends to have yellow featured a lot more than it is in the real world, so I thought why not yellow wheels, and I think they look pretty nice on our car here. Now, one thing that I do want to show off is another set of wheels. Now, a couple different types of Lego wheels will fit on this car, mostly the smaller variations, but there also is this variation that was designed for the Racer series, and they look more like a racing wheel, kind of reminiscent of Hot Wheels. If you sort of want your car to be more of a, let's say, tricked out ride, maybe he's doing some street racing, then you can throw these tires on there and they can give it a little bit more of a racing look, and these do look a bit more realistic than the yellow ones. However, I like the wider tires on the yellow ones. I personally prefer them, but if you want to do that, there's this. And also, one thing that we did not mention is the spare tire contraption that I've added in. So this door will open. It's obviously a very small compartment, but as I was building this, I realized it is room for one of these small, very old school Lego tires with the tiny tread. I also have one in gray that probably works better for a spare tire. Now, just slide that right in there, sticks in there, and then when your car gets a popped tire, you've got the spare on here. Honestly, looks quite funny. I like it with the spare. And there you go. Now we're going to get started on the bumpers, both front and back. And this first piece we have here is a sort of sliding piece, but it also manages to work quite well to look like a bumper, and we are just going to take 2 of those, set them right alongside each other as such, add a second one for a second layer of that bumper, and then we will add each of these just to be sort of secondary little lights, and that is the front bumper. Now the rear bumper is going to be built on a 2x4 plate, just like this one, and it's quite simple, actually. We're just gonna start out by taking another one of these grill pieces, putting it right on there. That's sort of the rear grill of the car. Then we're gonna have a 1x1 flat piece put right there off the center of the grill. And then next up, where it's going to be facing this way, grab 2 of these red transparent pieces. One of them. You can either put these facing upwards or downwards. I tend to like them with the slant going up. Place them on each side there. Attach yellow lights. Most cars have red and yellow lights on the back. Attach the yellow transparent pieces right in there. And now the final part is the exhaust piece, which is going to be made out of this little Technic cylinder piece. Get a closer look at that there. And we're just going to do the slightly maneuver with placing that, which allows us to attach comfortably to the stud right there, and that creates this sort of little exhaust pipe piece to be sticking out of the back of the car. Now looking at our creation, we can see that these studs are exposed from that piece we put on much earlier, and now we bring in the bumper part, which is just going to go attach like so, just like that. It provides that nice sort of plastic colored bumper feel I was talking about going for with this thing, and it looks a little bit on the sort of junky side for a car, but that's okay. That's what we're going for with this civilian car. Now in the front, we've got already 2 lights up there in the front, and we're going to add 2 more along with the bumper right here. We will just bring this guy in, attach it right there to the bottom. It should fit. It is 4 studs wide, and there we go. We have that front bumper, and now we are just about finished. One last thing, this top piece, the roof of the car, has a little bit too many exposed studs on it for my liking, so I'm just going to go ahead and do some smoothing out of it. I think the design I came up with was a couple of these grill pieces and then 2 of these 1x1 flat plate red pieces. If you have those are incredibly useful. This can give a neat little look to it, and we are done. Alright, so now that we have finished up this little simple car, what do we do with it? Well, if I were you, I've got a few suggestions. You can add it to the massive gridlock in your Lego city. Or if you're like me and you prefer action scenes, well, I always like to use cars like these as set pieces or cover for soldiers and clones to hide behind. But if you're more of a car person, well, you can suit up to race. Get zipping. Well, that is it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed building with me. I certainly enjoyed building with you, and we'll see you next time.